Soil health is the foundation of every successful farm, and today we're digging deep into what makes it thrive. Join us as we sit down with the innovators at CropAid Nutrition, the minds behind farmer-owned, science-backed soil health solutions. We'll break down the key components of their system, explore the power of soil biology, and tackle challenges like compaction. Don't miss an exclusive look at the Shovel Kings, an upcoming docuseries following real farms on their journey with CropAid products. If you're ready to see soil health in action, this is a conversation you won't want to miss.
Today's session is going to be interview style. It's not going to be any kind of death by PowerPoint. It's going to be very conversation driven, a customer-centric conversation. So we'd love it if you would join in. I wanted to do a quick introduction as to why Eberhard Ag is working with CropAid Nutrition. So we've been bringing Biosol to the market now for 10 years, and unique fertility solutions and soil health, I think, has been our jam for a while. So that fit really well. But like a lot of retailers and different dealers, of course, there's all kinds of stuff that comes across our desk over the years. And there's specific reasons that we wanted to partner with the good folks at CropAid Nutrition, and that is simplicity. You'll hear today that CropAid has just 4 or 5 core products, and they work together as a system. It's very simple. They have a lot of proven science and results, a great track record. They're getting on close to 10 years, similar to us. So these products have been very consistent in the field. We love that it's farmer owned and farmer driven. They started this company and developed a lot of these products to deal with their own issues that they had on the farm, and I think that helps them relate to what farmers go through. And the products are thus very cost effective. Darren was telling us yesterday how they split the labor between the farm and the manufacturing, and everything's very affordable. I think we had a meeting at the farm yesterday and everybody was very impressed with the pricing. So the cost effective part of it is very good, in being CFIA registered. We're going to try these products out ourselves at the farm this year. We've discussed the plan yesterday. We love that it's compatible with Biosol. These folks are Biosol customers long term. We always talk about it being a 1 + 1 = 3 with the biology, so that fits really well. We love the soil health focus. I love that CropAid Plus is a soil health product, and I'm absolutely fascinated. You guys are going to hear about it today. What this product does in the soil is very exciting, and we share a lot of values. Being Saskatchewan farm boys, Terry and myself, and the crew at CropAid Nutrition, the focus on service is something that I think is exceptional in this space. So we just hear about it over and over and over. What it makes you different, it's the level of service that this company provides to the dealer network. So that's just some of the reasons that we're here to support, help bring to market this product to companies and support their dealer network and their efforts. And one of the things that I'm really excited about, I'll share it with you here, that we're going to be doing, that I want everybody here to follow along with this year, is we're going to have fun with a little bit of a series, a docu-series, if you will, called the Shovel Kings. And I think this really highlights a unique aspect of the company, where they're very focused on getting out into the dirt, looking at the differences, digging up the differentiation. And we're going to be following throughout the year in a little YouTube series. No animals were harmed in this making of this made-for-TV movie, I always say, but it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to follow a number of different farms throughout the year on their journey of farming, highlighting what's going on with them throughout the different seasons and what kind of challenges and opportunities they're having throughout the year. But with that, we'll focus on and highlight and discuss and demonstrate the use of their different products and how it fits into a farm, and whether it's a farm like Darren and Calvin's, of course, that have been using it obviously since the beginning and are experiencing all the benefits, long term, to their cropping system, or somebody like Eberhard Farms, where we were all out there yesterday. There was 10 of us in the boardroom, and we were discussing how it would look like to implement this on the farm. And we're going to be testing a substantial amount of this product and going on that journey to take them from skeptics. I mean, they've seen a lot of different things come and go, and they trial things constantly, So we're going to see the crop aid difference on the farm, and we're going to document that and take you folks behind the scenes. So not only will we be having this little docu-series as we go, but we'll have these educational webinars like this one throughout the year to highlight what we're doing from an educational point of view. So I'm excited about that. That's going to be a lot of fun. And it's all to tell the story of crop aid. So today we're just going to get a general overview about the company, the folks that are responsible for creating these products and bringing them to market. Again, please jump in and ask any questions. It's a little bit of a long introductory talk there. I want to get crop aid talking here, but I'm really looking forward to the conversation today. Thanks everybody for attending, and let's get started with you, I guess, Darren. And I just wanted to mention we have Darren Sander, the founder and owner of the company, on the line here. And we have Calvin Sander, his brother, who's the sales manager, and then Darren Fisher's sort of the technical guy and agronomy guy. So Darren, do you want to start us off just by giving us a little bit of background on your farm, I guess is where it started, and then how you got into this in your journey bringing this product and company to market?
Sure. Good morning, everybody. I'm Darren Sander, farm near Rosetown, Saskatchewan, so third generation out there. I guess how it all started was I finished diploma ag at the U of S in 91 and went out to farm with dad and figured that just would be the future. But in less than 10 years, soon realized that there was some serious issues on our farm, heavy Regina gumbo clay, major compaction issues. And as we got towards the droughts of the early 2000s, the land was extremely hard. Margins were tight. There wasn't a lot of money in it. And we just felt we were missing something on our own farm. So looked to the industry for some answers. And there wasn't really any products at the time. There was a few out there. They were expensive, didn't really work consistently. There was no science in the soil health industry really to back any of this stuff. So got an off-farm job with a soil health company out of Alberta, and started the journey of learning and seeing what we could find on our own. And that led to employment in Australia in 2006 for about 8 years, where I was heavily involved in R&D, research, trials, greenhouse, and out in the real world. And learned a heap of stuff, made a lot of international connections, and brought these technologies back to our own farm and refined some of them, and thus, I guess, started producing crop aid nutrition products.
Right on. Well, let's hear from Calvin and Darren a little bit about how they got involved, so we get to know who you are, and then we'll continue the journey here. Calvin, how did you get involved in this? You were a school teacher before. We were asking if farmers were sometimes like school kids a little bit, or if it was different.
Yeah, no, I started off a different route. I started in education and was teaching in Saskatoon for about 8 years, and at the same time was farming as well, trying to do both things. And it it was good, but it was also super busy and not a lot of time off, because the teacher time off was the farming time. So ended up the farm expanded a bit in mid 90s, and then or towards 98, I guess it was, and then I kind of left the teaching part of it alone and got into farming full time. And as Darren said, we were faced with some different issues, and plus the fact that you're trying to support 3 families on one farm, and you need to get some other income going. So that was another driving force, I think, to look for something different or additionally. And so Darren and I ended up with the same company in the early 2000s, and I kind of was the general manager of Saskatchewan and then Manitoba as well, and worked with that a lot. And then Darren was doing his thing with the company. Then he kind of split off and was doing his own thing for a number of years. And then we kind of, I guess, reconnected as far as the crop aid goes in about 2016, 2017. So yeah, it's been good. It's been a lot of learning, but it's been a fun process.
Awesome. What about you, Darren? How did you get involved? Darren Fisher, I guess I have to differentiate sometimes. Too many Darrens.
My journey is a little bit different. I started off over 20 years ago. I went to school, agronomy and precision ag, before precision ag was even kind of known. After I graduated there, I took a job down in a company with Owensboro, Kentucky. So it was kind of a franchise, it was kind of a crop consulting job in southern Saskatchewan, Manitoba. Uh, After a couple of years, that the company that had the franchise, they split up. So I moved to Alberta, manager of a co-op in Brooks at the Agro, and then I went up to Red Deer, and I ran the fertilizers plant. I was doing agronomy for a company in Innisfail, Alberta, uh, there for a couple of years, and farmers were coming in and they were asking me questions I didn't have an answer for. Uh, why all these increased inputs? Why are weeds growing when they never had weeds growing before? Their soil was changing, and I never had an answer. And that always kind of bothered me. So after about 3 or 4 years there, I left. We moved to Saskatchewan, and these questions still kept bothering me. So I didn't go back to agronomy. I actually went back driving trucks. So I hauled oil in Alberta for a couple of years, and then I finally wanted to join back in agriculture. So I actually met a guy in Manitoba. So he was kind of a mentor of mine, and he explained everything, all these questions I had. He explained, and not only explained, but he showed me proof in scientific research, in books and papers, and he answered all the questions that I had. So that's when I realized soil health and the biology and all this kind of stuff did matter. And these are the reasons why things were changing in the soil. Then after that, kind of spent a few years with him. That wasn't quite the right fit. And then I met Calvin. So me and Calvin, we kind of hit it off there. And Calvin kind of brought me on to the company he was with. Then after a couple of years, Darren was in Australia. So I met Darren afterwards. And we've kind of known each other ever since. Calvin's been 15, 16 years, and I've known Darren for likely 10 or 12. Uh, then when Darren started Crop Aid, honestly, Darren started a company that was the exact fit for soil health, and it was the company that soil health needed, and it just checked all the boxes, so it was a no-brainer to be here.
Awesome. Awesome. It's good to hear the journey and get a little bit of context. So, Darren Sander, you talk about the problems that you guys are experiencing on the farm as being, some of the driving force behind developing these products and going abroad. You went around the world to figure this out. What were those issues, and what is the central issue that you and your company and the products and your dealer network are trying to address for producers?
Yeah, the core problem on our farm, and as I found out on most farms, was compaction, whether it's a deeper compaction layer or the mechanical compaction layer in the soil. That was causing, most of our production issues, whether it was the drill not closing up nice, whether it was too dry and clods, or it was too wet and it was just knifing through the wet soil and not closing up. Whether it was not allowing the snow melt or the thunder showers to soak in. Instead, they're just running off down the field to the low spots. Weeds struggling in tight conditions, not soaking up or absorbing 100% of the herbicide we're spraying, getting half kills, and eventually leading to some herbicide resistance. And just on and on. Most of our problems we are relating back to compaction, and there just was no solutions for compaction. However, we did learn over time that in the soil, there is native biology responsible for soil structure. That was just dormant, and the way we're farming, it just was not triggering that biology anymore. So year after year, the levels of beneficial biology were depleting, and compaction and soil issues were building, and just led to the situation that we're in, where we needed a fix for the compaction and the soil structure.
Yeah, one of the things I was really curious about is how do you make that connection between biology and compaction? I don't know if that would be an obvious thing, or how can biology impact compaction?
Well, beneficial biology needs loose aerated soil to exist and flourish and host to the plants. And we're all farming, or most of us, in tight, compacted, low oxygen or non-aerated soil, which is more conducive for pathogens. So the key was to find out how in nature, before we started farming, well, like when we break yard sites or fence lines, we got this nice loose soil, and the crop's a foot taller and dark green. How come our fields aren't like that anymore? What's missing? What's not activating every year? So just through a lot of research and really a lot of R&D and trial and error, and looking at products that would work in the greenhouse but not out in the real world, and why is that? Slowly started putting the pieces of the puzzle together.
Yeah. I've heard you talk about it a few times now, and I'm always fascinated to hear it again because I catch something new every time. But can you talk to our live studio audience this morning about the cycle of going from natural vegetation to the monocropping system that we have today, and how crop aid's helping to remediate that and kind of go back to nature a bit?
Sure, I can explain. So I'll just go through, I guess, how plants grew before we started farming on the land, and how they're existing now under a conventional farming system. And it's going to be in some very layman terms, easy to understand. So apology to any soil scientists out there. It's just going to be a big brush. But anyways, I guess before we started farming, the land had native vegetation growing on it, whatever that might be, grasses, shrubs, multiple species of plants. Those plants dripped exudates through their roots into the soil and activated by native biology in the soil. That biology role in the soil is to refine non-plant available nutrients, build soil structure, bring water back to the plants, colonize around the seed and the roots with a rhizosphere like a cocoon wrapping around the roots, and feeding the plant these now plant available nutrition or nutrients. Meanwhile, the plant, through photosynthesis, converting chemical or light energy to chemical energy, produces complex sugars, complex proteins, other chemicals, and drips them down through the root system to feed the biology, and the biology feeds the plants. It's a symbiotic relationship, good nutrient cycling, everything's good. We've come along now and we've cleared the land, so got rid of all the native vegetation, and we're monocropping wheat, canola, lentils, whatever it might be. So we're only growing one species of plant, so we have very limited exudates going into the soil, and plus we're growing a non-native plant. So in some cases, the wrong exudates totally for that native biology. So then we decided, well, that's what's missing, is that native drip or that native exudate. So what does that do? So when we're conventionally farming, maybe I'll back up a bit. So on the when we have the native vegetation going with the beneficial biology, and we have that symbiotic relationship, again, the plant's forced to jack up its complex sugars and proteins. So what that does is we have a plant dripping exudates into the soil, calling for what it requires, or the nutrition in the soil from the biology. We have the biology releasing that as it gets different food sources. We have a natural, balanced plant. It's growing a little slower cellularly wise. If we look at those cells under a microscope, they're like nice, tight building bricks, rectangle shape. A nice waxy coating over them, no leaks, no breaks, good strong stems, so lodging resistance. The leaves have waxy coatings, the cells are tight. It's all a bit of a defense against pests and insects entering that plant. A nice block against evapotranspiration, or the plant evaporating moisture out of it. Just a real nice healthy balance. When we're farming conventionally without all of that working for us, the applied fertilizer in the soil does not get fully consumed by the bacteria in the soil, because we are dealing with limited amounts now. And the excess fertilizer we're finding is still somewhat dissolving in the groundwater. And if we just talk about nitrogen, it's the easiest one. So now when we have a plant taking water up, it's also taking salt-based nitrogen up with it, which dehydrates the plant. So it needs more water, thus taking more salt-based fertilizer, and it's a bit of a vicious cycle. So it's an inefficient way to use the little bit of water we have. It's also an inefficient way of using our nitrogen program. The plant then, under that system, does not have the need to build complex sugars and proteins. It's not on this drip cycle with the exudates because it's being forced to take nutrition up every time it takes water. Therefore, the plant under a cellular level, if we look at the cells under a microscope, we'll see they're more oblong or balloon shaped or swollen, and they don't fit nice and tight together. And there are leaks between the joints where we're leaking out plant sap. We're actually leaking out water, high evapotranspiration, causing the plant to take more and more water up, but again, taking more and more salt-based nitrogen with it. And we get an imbalanced, unhealthy plant. That brings in pests and disease, pests, especially the sap sucking ones like simple sugars, simple proteins, that those are the ones they can process and digest. So now we're farming and we're growing crops that are simple in sugars and simple in proteins. So we do have pest and disease issues. Also with the insects, they like the simple proteins and sugars as well. They can digest that. So we have some pest problems. Lodging, yes, with the nitrogen, we're growing lots of grain. So we got big heavy heads on top, but we have weak stems now with the cells. So we have lodging issues. So it's a very inefficient way of growing a plant. Because we are not dripping those exudates into the soil, we're not triggering the biology out of dormancy in the spring. So especially when we're looking at the mycorrhizal fungi, that's the critter that's largely responsible for the soil structure. So we're not getting a lot of action there. Our other levels of biology slowly depleting. When we do put that nitrogen program into the soil, we're starting a bacterial frenzy. So the bit of biology that we do have in the soil is going to now start consuming what they can out of that applied fertilizer program, but they're not getting it at all. And they do need to eat while they're doing this. And, the organic matter in the soil is a food source for them. So we're not only lowering our levels of beneficial biology in the soil, but we're also lowering our organic matter too as we go along. Some very simple ways to see this is we've all broken a fence line or a yard site on the farm. And we'll seed over that yard site, and it's a foot taller and it's dark green and it's fantastic for year 1 and maybe year 2. But how long do we farm that yard site till it's gone? We can't even tell where it was, 4 or 5 years. It only took 4 or 5 years to knock that good beneficial biology from an untouched state down to the same low level as the rest of the field. It's the same reason why a cow sticks his head through a barbed wire fence while it's standing in a green pasture to eat out of the ditch. The ditch has that natural cycle going, that symbiotic relation, good biology. It's palatable, high in minerals. Whereas in the paddock behind them, it's compacted, it's low biology and not as palatable and lower minerals. So that's really it in a very simple nutshell.
Lovely. No, and I love how you say paddock. You can tell that you've been to Australia and learned some of that, worked
that
over
slips
there.
out every once in a while.
Paddock or pasture, depending where you are in the world. One thing too that you put into numbers and mathematics that's a little bit shocking too is just the amount of salt that we've been putting down for a long time in conventional systems. Can you talk about that?
Sure, it's something that we don't think about. I certainly didn't when we're putting down fertilizer. But if we just generalize a little bit, it's been the last 50 years of farming that we've been putting down some bigger rates of fertilizer. So if we say an average farm has maybe put down a couple 100 pounds of a fertilizer program, about half of that is salt. So 50 years of 200 pounds. If half of it's salt, we've put 5,000 pounds of salt down in the top 2 inches of our soil. We marry that with some low biology, poor soil structure, a mechanical compaction layer from the drills that we're sliding in to put the crop in. That salt is immobile. It's sitting at the top end. It's not soaking away with the water going through the soil profile. We're getting runoff now because the water's not soaking into the field. So this runoff is going to our low spots in our field, which now we're getting these saline spots. So it's a whole field effect. And the salt is an issue. I mean, kochia in Saskatchewan and Alberta is out of hand. Really started flaring up in the last few years with the droughts. And it loves free nitrogen in the groundwater, and it loves salty conditions. So it's no wonder we're growing a lot of kochia these days, and it's become a real problem in the ag industry. but it's just a symptom of the soil that likes to grow in the conditions we've created. And sometimes we can correct those problems if we turn the clock back on this land and get the soil structure back into it. And that is one thing that we focus on. It's 100% focus at Crop Aid, is tackling the core product on the farm, which is compaction. Once we get rid of that compaction, everything else falls into place, and the farming system just works overall much better.
Yeah, and that's why I think Biosol works great too when you have a salt index of 7 as opposed to ammonium sulfate, which is 88, which is almost just good old table salt. So it's crazy to think about all the salt that we put down over the years, but we're going to talk about how your products address that a little bit. But I just wanted to mention too, we have 68 folks on the call. I can see all your names, and we have some incredible agronomists and farmers. And I would love to hear from you what you want to know from the good folks here at Crop Aid. So please put your questions in the Q&A, or put it in the chat, or put your hand up. And don't really want to have to pick on any of you, but I know some of you. So love.
I might just,
Michael.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, oh, am I up or no?
No, well, actually, Michael Muscovy put his hand up. And
Sorry.
If you're at the Convergence Conference, you heard just how eloquent a cowboy poet this man is. Oh, good morning, Michael. You might have to unmute yourself there.
Yeah, got her now. But words of interest that I just heard you say when you talk about water and it running off, I have a term that I use. It's just after seeding time. The drill is went over, maybe a harrow bar prior, and then a land roller. We get a rain, and I call it standing water syndrome, where every slight little depression, the water will stand for a day after a little bigger rain, and then it goes away. And I find that a syndrome directly after seeding, but as the crop gets up and starts to grow, it seems like rains a little later in the season. And I've also referred to it in the term as table topping, where it's just the top of the table where that water is. Could you give me a little more explanation on getting this water to go down in the soil, please?
Thank you,
Sure.
Michael. Great question.
So we're dealing with, mechanical compaction, really. So as we run that drill across the land, say it's down 2 inches and scraping the soil 2 inches below, it's creating a compaction layer there. The roller, the harrows, the tire traffic, the harvest traffic from last year, it's all compaction. And with low biology, especially the mycorrhizal fungi, we're not removing that or fixing that. So the water, it has a tough time getting through that. So instead of draining in, which takes time, it runs to the low spots. So without good soil structure, we're not going to get good water absorption. And a key indicator of that we can see with our canola plants. They'll root down to where the drill slid across the soil, and then they make a right-hand turn. And it's super common to be pulling canola plants, and the roots go down. And then the main tap is bent on a right-hand turn along the soil compaction layer. So if the roots aren't even able to get through that with a bit of beneficial biology helping them get through the soil, the water's not going to go through either. So as soon as we can get that mycorrhizal fungi going, send a specific trigger down to get it going and get active again, we can start breaking up that soil compaction. So that is what Crop Aid Plus, our biostimulant product, that's what it contains. It's simply a product that we've created that mimics that native vegetation, what it dripped in the soil to get your native biology going. And a large part of that is the mycorrhizal fungi and the fungal family, and it busts up that soil extremely fast. And it does that because the biology is a living thing. It wants to live in the soil. The only way it can live is to loosen up that soil and host to whatever plant is growing there, so it can do that symbiotic relationship.
Does that answer your question, Michael?
Yes, it does very well. Thank you. It's not your product doing it. It's what your product does to the plant and the roots.
Exactly. Our product is simply a trigger. There's nothing live in it. We're
Yeah.
dealing only with your native biology, which changes every square meter of your fields. So when we can lift that all evenly and tell it to get out of dormancy and get back to work, everything is right in the world. It will, and it will host whatever we're growing there for the season.
Well, thank you. That's really good, because sometimes I drive out and one neighbor's field has standing water syndrome. And then right across the fence, the next field doesn't. And I think, ooh, they must have had more rain. But that's not entirely correct.
No, a lot of it is just the function of, what we're doing on that land and the history of the field, but also what we're growing on it. So if you have a think what the soil is like in the fall time after a canola crop or a wheat crop, it's very hard. But how come after a barley crop or oats or peas, it's really soft and mellow? The only difference there is the barley, the oats, the peas are better hosts of native biology and have some exudate drip that somewhat triggers a little more of that native biology out of dormancy and has that working for it. And that's the difference in a few months of that growing season, how soft that soil is after a barley crop, where the wheat crop or the canola crop has very little exudates coming out of it that are triggering our native biology, and therefore we have very hard conditions. We haven't done anything with that mycorrhizal fungi. Same thing if we look at our soil trash. I can go into a field and find canola stalks from 3 years ago with still root hairs on them. There's nothing happening. Nothing's breaking down. But yet if I go to a field that has good soil health on it, by springtime, the stuff I just harvested is already pretty much dissolved and broke down. So it's a huge difference.
I have
Right on.
seen that myself. Thank you.
Michael, did you want to stick around just in case you had some more questions, or you?
I'm not going anywhere.
I appreciate you. So we'll keep getting the farmer perspective here. And we did have a question starting to come in, so I think we're all getting the blood flowing here this morning. Jody Berglund, the net wrap queen, God bless you. I would like to know their thoughts on the use of anhydrous. As a user of anhydrous, do they feel I am defeating the purpose? Is anhydrous killing the microorganisms and turning around and using crop aid? Who wants to take that one?
That's a great question. What we've found with different testing is that the anhydrous does deplete or lower or stifle that biology for a very short period of time. We're talking maybe hours or a day or two. But when we have that trigger in the soil and the biology coming out of dormancy and multiplying, dividing, it rears its head and surpasses that right away. So we have found no real difference by the end of the season or during the season, what program the farmers are using, whether it's liquid fertilizer, granular, or anhydrous, fall or spring. It bounces over that very quickly. So it doesn't seem to matter. It does dip it down a little bit, but it recovers very quickly.
Great answer. Yeah, let us know if you have any follow-up questions to that, Jody.
One thing I will say about the anhydrous is a lot of our users putting anhydrous down in the fall are amazed at how that soil closes up nicely behind the disc or the shank when we're putting the gas down and sealing the gas into the soil, where other farmers are having troubles with closing that opening up, whether it's too cloddy or too wet, just forming a slit. So it's doing a real nice job of getting a better efficacy out of using the gas.
So it feels like it's time to get to the core of what you folks are actually doing to remediate some of these issues that we've talked about. And talk to me about this biostimulant that you have, the ingredients that you use, the process, what it does in the soil, and what folks can expect.
Sure. I will just mention a couple things about the company, I guess. Most of us involved with Crop Aid have worked for other companies. That's how we got started, especially in the earlier days. there was not much for labels, not much for science, not much for CFIA registration. Everyone was putting a bit of fertilizer with their products and hiding behind the fertilizer loophole and just selling products. And that's not something I like as a farmer. If I buy something, I want to know exactly what's in it. I want a full transparency of the ingredients. I don't want any proprietary information. I expect the product to work consistently every time. It needs to be extremely inexpensive to put on. Those are my expectations, and I expect service. If I buy a combine or a chemical, I want follow up and someone to show me which buttons to push and make sure everything's working properly. So that's exactly how we run Crop Aid: full transparency, inexpensive, and all those things. On our product itself, like I mentioned, our biostimulant component, which is in our core product, our biostimulant, our Crop Aid Plus, and also in our seed primers, we have the biostimulant in there as well. It is simply a product that mimics that native vegetation drip into the soil. And how we achieve that is using ammonium lignosulfonate and seaweed extract or kelp. And the key to those are, especially the lignin, is plant-based fresh carbon. So if we're trying to get plant-based beneficial biology out of the soil, we need to use plant-based ingredients. And fresh lignin, which is derived out of the pulp mill, so it's a pulping byproduct from pulping trees. So plants, we take that powder, we get it back to the plant, we refine it into our products. So we're using plant-based carbon. It's fresh carbon. It has energies with it, and it's the energies that is very much part of the signal to get the biology out of dormancy. When we compare that to other products on the market, and this is really our point of difference as a product, there's a lot of companies selling a lot of carbon-based triggers out there, and that's great, and they all have their space. But if we're using mineral-based carbons with no energies, we are not getting the full spectrum of biology out of dormancy to assist our growing program. And the large component of that is the soil structure ones. So putting a mineral-based carbon into the soil with no energies with it, we're just missing some of the key triggers to get all of that biology going and do the whole program. So our product is a 2-pass product. So normally the first kick is with the pre-burn, and that is signaling the biology to get out of dormancy, get going, and mainly and primarily the mycorrhizal fungi going to start busting up that soil, getting it loosened, getting some oxygen in it, so that when we come back with our second pass at herbicide time, we have an environment already where that biology can live and flourish attached to the plants and give us an ROI because it can exist and live the whole season. When we're using other products, I would say that don't quite get all of the spokes of the wheel out, and we're missing that soil structure component. We do get short-term benefits, which might grow a little bit of a bigger root or a few other noticeable things, but we're not have the survivability of the network in the soil long enough in the season to get us an ROI at the end of the day. And that ROI can be several different things. The easiest one to measure is yield, of course. Second one that's showing up very well is nutrient use efficiency. So what would we expect if you cut a field in half and everything is the same and you use Crop Aid on one side and not on the other? We would expect in most conditions a yield increase, but yet when we come back and soil test in the fall, we have, even with a yield increase, the same or in most cases more nutrient residual in the soil, and that's micros and macros. So if we were used to having 10 or 20 pounds in our soil at the start of the season, and then we add the rest of our removal rate to grow our crop, now we might have, 20 or 30 or more. So that again is up to the advisor and the farmer to figure out what they're going to do with a black and white soil test. But it does show up. So other, I guess, ROIs, what we're finding that this healthy soil system does is it adds efficacy to all the money we're spending on the farm. So it helps the fertilizer program by building in better efficacy and nutrient use, better water use efficiency. Herbicides as well. Currently, we're spraying weeds that are struggling in tight soil. We're getting half kills, 3/4 kills, and over time, I feel we're getting some herbicide tolerance. Now we have a plant that's growing in nice, loose, aerated soil. It's going to absorb that chemical and it's going to die. We're not cutting rates. We're just having chemicals that are really going to do a good job now. So it's adding an efficacy into that as well. Same with our fungicides and pesticides. Again, we are not a company that is going to say, cut some fertilizer, don't spray a fungicide or pesticide. That's not our role. We are a soil health company. We repair soil. There are side benefits to that. For diseases and pests, we have plants that are now higher in complex sugars and proteins. They got the waxy coating on, the better stalks, the better stems and leaves. There is a degree of protection there against pests and disease. However, it is just a degree. So if we still have the thresholds to spray, or we're in an area where, say, wetter area where fungicide is just part of the program, that's absolutely fine. We have now two components. It's like using two different groups of herbicide to tackle a weed. We have the chemical shed and we have now this natural defense. We put the two together and we are getting fantastic control of pests and disease. As far as the fertilizer rates go, again, we are not a company that is ever going to tell you to cut fertilizer. That's up to your advisor and the farmer to be measuring and looking at that and what's going on in the soil. However, our customers, we see things with the fertilizer program going three different ways. We might have some land that's low productivity, marginal land. The guys are fairly light on the fertilizer there because it's not growing a lot of grain. Once we get the soil structure back into that soil and get the water absorbing, we're growing a fair amount more grain. So in some cases, the farmers are actually increasing fertilizer to grow more production. On our farm, we were always kind of middle of the row fertility guys. Now that we're on this soil health program, we're growing a little more grain, and our fertilizer and our efficiency is matching that. So we really didn't change rates too much at all. And then we have other fellows that use our product that are on the high side of fertility, especially nitrogen. And that's showing up as excess nitrogen on the soil tests. And, again, they're the ones that will really see the excess nutrient residuals on their soil tests. And again, it's up to the advisor and the farmer to have a look at that and see how they want to deal with that.
Awesome. No, great explanation. We're getting some good questions coming in here. We're going to be 15 minutes to the top of the hour, and I want to keep it to an hour today just to respect everybody's time that came on the call. And also keep in mind, we're going to do future series like this, digital events, where we'll be explaining the different aspects of the products and the agronomy and the biology more in depth. So we have a question here from Matt Mays, biosol dealer out of Glassland, Saskatchewan. There, we have some acres in oil and gas country that has some salinity, only grows kochia. Can we use your product to bring these acres back into production? And what is the cost per acre? Thank you.
Okay, that's a good question. So salinity, especially the hot spots in the field, or the low spots that aren't growing anything, they're maybe shiny black with a ring of kochia around the edge. We're finding that those spots, it's not a biology or a soil health question in those areas. It's a chemistry problem. And what we're doing for those is a whole field approach. So we're spraying the biostimulant across the entire field to get the compaction out of it. What that does is allow the groundwater from the snow and the rains to soak into the field rather than run off into those low spots and keep adding pressure to them. We have a product that we've developed called CropAid SS, or saline solution. It's just in the CFIA registration phase right now. It will be ready this summer, will be for sale this fall. We've been trialing it for 4 years now. What it does, it's a chemical. And the problem with the saline spots that we're finding is we have a positive negative attraction between the water and the soil, which is extremely strong in those saline spots. It will not let the water through and take the salts away. So we get the pooling effect, and that's why those spots are sludgy and wet all season long. Plus, the water itself has high surface tension, which means, when a droplet of water is sitting on the table, it's a nice round shape. And if we add like a surfactant to it and break down that surface tension, it's just a big long smear over the table. So our product does two things. It breaks the surface tension of the water, and it takes away the attraction, the positive and negative, and makes it a neutral. So we spot spray those saline areas in the fall. When the snow melts in the spring, that water event goes through that soil profile with the chemical, breaking the bonds and the surface tension of the water and taking the salts with it. And that season, we're able to grow grain in that area. Not a great crop, but we're having germination and the start of getting that back and taking the pressure off it by treating the entire rest of the field. So it's a whole field approach, and it's working extremely fast.
Yeah, that's one of the things we're really excited about to try out at the farm.
Cost per acre. So full retail, our biostimulant is $3.75 an acre per pass, 2-pass system. So $7.50 would be full retail. And the SS product will be selling for $18 an acre, and typically goes down between a half liter and a liter an acre, depending on severity. And that one there's just spot sprayed on the circles themselves, or the low spots.
Excellent. No, great answer. Great question. Great answer. Deep Patel from MMP Ag Intellect is asking, are there any analytics to quantify the increase of microbial load that the product promises?
Yeah, so that's one thing that we're always looking at as well as a company. So we've joined forces with Cara Soil Health Labs now. So Darren Fisher's kind of in charge of that area of the company, where we are looking at non-treated land, treated land over several years, starting to measure the bacteria and the fungi in those soils, and trying to get a handle on which actual species are doing which roles and the balances between the bacterial and fungi. So yes, this is something that we are that's actually this year's project, is to really get some numbers and data behind that part of it.
Yep. Well, we might have time for a couple more questions here. We're getting close to the top of the hour. I wanted to get Michael's perspective as a producer as to what he's thinking about what he's heard here today. What do you think, Michael, about the whole enchilada?
Really good so far. You did mention about water and surface tension, and I like that side of it as well. Earlier on, when I mentioned about like a Harrow-Bar land roller, we've started to avoid land rolling, although I wouldn't sell the land roller. And there are places where we have land rolled ahead of the drill to create the soil a little, and that way we're not rolling after the drill, just in certain spots, and spots like you said of your other one. So thank you guys, really good, really good.
Awesome. Calvin and Darren, I got you muted just here I know you guys are in the same room, so we wanted to produce any echo there. But Calvin, do you have any words to kind of take us out here towards the top of the hour? Did you have anything to add specifically, Calvin? I asked to unmute you there. Can you just unmute yourself, Calvin? I think.
No, just in what Michael had just said about the land rolling. We grow a lot of lentils as well, and one of the things that we find in our area by Rosetown is there's a lot of guys that will roll as right after they seed that land, and what we found seems to work a little bit better is to wait and roll that lentil crop. When that lentil is maybe 2 inches tall, is still kind of in the furrow, but put the land roller over it at that point, and it's as long as your soil is not had a rain on it, it's drier, and it'll cause some less compaction issues for you as well. It's just something that we've found that works better than trying to roll right after you seed it, because if it's still a bit tacky and wet, it just makes that compaction layer a lot worse than if you waited. So just something that to follow up with what Michael said.
Great point. Fisher, did you have anything to add to the conversation before we wrap up here today?
No, I think everything was explained very well. I just think that we in the past we've heard these numbers of biology in the soil is in the top 6 inches, 30 to 50,000 pounds of that of the 2 million pounds is biology, and I think sometimes we think that we can't hurt that biology, and it's just there. But over time, the farming practices and that kind of stuff, we do damage that biology. Uh, and it does affect us. It affects, the plant growth, the fertilizer we put in, and everything else. So, uh, on a crop aid program, I mean, we can help alleviate alleviate those problems we were doing in farming, and just having a nice, healthy soil.
Perfect. No, that's great. So just to wrap things up here, going into the top of the hour, Darren, I'm going to ask to unmute you there. You might have to unmute yourself. Bruce Degg has raised his hand. Let's click on this here. Brave man, Bruce Degg. I'm going to allow you to talk, Bruce. You're live. You're live, Bruce, on the Crop Aid
Yeah,
Nutrition
good morning,
webinar.
everybody. Can you hear me? Yeah.
Can hear you. You sound great.
I just got several producers that couldn't make the meeting today, and they were wondering if this is recorded, and I think you said it was going to be, and how would we access that then, Dan?
Appreciate it. Yeah, great question. So we will publish the recording on YouTube, and we will send out an email to that effect, and we'll have a link for everybody. And there's already one of Darren's presentations, maybe even two of his presentations on our YouTube as well from the past, as well as their own YouTube. You guys have your own YouTube where there's more presentations there. But as we go along with this webinar series and the whole Shovel Kings docu-series, it'll all be on YouTube, and we'll be providing that. And I wanted to mention, it feels like today was really brief because we covered a lot of ground quickly, and I'd love to dive into it more, but I do want to respect everybody's time. In a month, we're going to be covering the seed primer. Before spring, we're going to get to the biostimulant, and then in the summer, we're going to talk about the mandatory crop checks they do with the shovels and the foliar program and all that, as well as in the fall when the snow flies, what the results were of these different farms and the folks that we're working with over the season. So does that answer your question, Bruce?
Yes, it sure does.
Good. Anything else then, Bruce, before we bring it on home here?
Nope, it's all good. Thanks.
Awesome. So Darren Sander, can you just summarize quickly the program, how folks would get a hold of the products and the distributors if they're interested? Maybe, direct people to the website and just
Sure.
kind of give people in the last 7 minutes, bring it on home here with an overview.
Sure. So in a nutshell, with the Good Soil Health program, it just adds a layer of efficiency to all the inputs that we are putting on the farm. We're still farming for maximum production, but we can do that and actually repair the soil at the same time and make money using these products and fixing our core problem of compaction. So we can fix these issues and make money along the way, and just put a little more resilience and sustainability, I guess, into our farming system. The products are easy to use. They mix with everything. There's no extra passes. Again, the service, if you use Crop Aid products, it doesn't matter how many acres you use. If it's just splitting a few fields in half or the whole farm, you will get a crop check if you're buying through our distributor network. And that is very important. So we're out there end of June, July, digging soil and plants with you, flipping her on the tailgate and showing you the differences. And that compaction in 4 to 5, 6 weeks is night and day difference on the back of the tailgate. We'll show you darker colored soil, better moisture holding capacity, nice structure falling apart on the tailgate versus where you haven't sprayed it, big clods if it's too wet or blocks of dirt if it's too dry. So it happens extremely fast. That's probably a comment we get is, how can 250 or 500 mil an acre do anything in a few weeks? And it's unbelievable when you get the right trigger down, that the force of nature, the force of that biology can do in a few weeks is it's unreal. And we would sure like to show people that on their own land base and explain what it can do to your farming program.
Love it. Okay, well, we got 5 minutes left. I don't see any more questions. Michael, did you have any words of wisdom to take us home as a producer?
Oh, a little story. The first time I used the Crop Aid, I had rented a quarter section of land that through most of its life was Disker summer follow wheat crop, Disker wheat crop. My buddy buys the quarter because it was his aunt. He farms it for a couple of years and kind of retiring, gave up on it. So I'm going to rent this quarter. Previous year, it had an oats crop on it that went 30 to 35 bushel an acre. And then they went in and baled up all the straw. So yippee. And the first year I go in, I applied fertilizer and all I do is get my money back. It won't penetrate water. And I'm going, whoa, this could take a lifetime to bring this quarter back in. Then the crop aid first, I'm talking about carbons and this and that, and I end up with some boxes of your product. So I apply it on the quarter in the springtime. I don't know if it made any difference. Then comes the springtime. I apply it again. I don't know if it made any difference. Then I don't even have to crop check, and people are saying to me, that's coming along pretty good. Oh, okay. Well, I don't know what I did, but maybe a guy gets lucky. By the harvest time, people are telling me I don't need to go out to the field because they're saying that's the best crop I've ever seen on that quarter. Boy, am I ever feeling proud because I'm Canada's finest farmer. We go in and at harvest time, that poorest quarter, the critically ill, yielded the best of our wheat crops. And I went, son of a gun, that's pretty good. Boy, I must be a good farmer. Later on, I go, hey, wait a minute. I did something different. Now, to talk about multiple years, we grow and go. Well, he went and sold the quarter on me, so I couldn't continue on that critically ill quarter. But
Bugger.
It was just my experience. I'm just telling you, for the money spent, I got payback. And I didn't even have to go out and look at it. They told me. I'm going to hang up.
Michael, that's radio gold, and trust me, folks, that's not a paid placement there, but that's Michael as usual, just being very wise. So yeah, we're going to bring it home here before the top of the hour. It's good to wrap up on time. I really appreciate everybody that came on the call today. Darren, what is the best way for folks to get a hold of you, the distributor network, and get some of the product on their farm this year?
Yeah, the best way and the easiest is probably just to go onto the website, info@cropaidnutrition.com, send a message there. It goes directly to Calvin, and he will steer it to the right rep in your area, and away we go. It's very easy. All products delivered to farm. Just pick up the phone, send an email. We're easy to work with.
Well, I appreciate that. Thanks, everybody. You're going to be hearing a lot more about Crop Aid in the year to come.